My name is Amy O'Shea and student ID is 100602773. I'll just ask Jeanette, do you consent to be in this video recording?
Yes, I do.
Abby, do you consent to be in this video recording?
Yes, I do.
Steve, do you consent to be in this video recording?
I do.
And Simon, do you consent? Thank you. And so we'll begin. We're holding a formal meeting, a general meeting for a medical clinic. All right, so thanks for joining us today. We're just going through a few actions from our previous meeting to begin with. The fence works have been completed around the border of the clinic, and also just a note that if no one has known yet, that Dr. Ingrid has resigned. And she won't be returning. She went on leave and she's not returning. So they're the only two outstanding items, or items from our last meeting that we just needed to go over. And we'll go over to our agenda items that you'll find on your agenda in front of you. Starting off with number 1 is the new hand hygiene policy. Now the practice nurse isn't able to attend, so she's down as an apology. But if you look at the second page, we have a new process on hand hygiene within the clinic. So we can just go quickly over this, starting off with the start to wet hands with water, applying the soap to all hand surfaces and rubbing hands palm to palm, which we usually know. The new steps now is that we also need to wash on the backs of our hands and interlacing your fingers, and then the same on the other hands, and also the backs of your fingers, and then also including your thumbs. And as you can see, it is stepped out step by step here. Rinsing with your hands and then drying with a towel, single-use towel, and then turning off the faucet. So that's the new step, was including the washing on the back of your hands and the backs of your fingers, and rather than just washing your hands like we normally do. Now these are going to be up in front of all of the sinks within the clinic. So if we can just follow that process, then that would be great.
Is this going to be enforced, or just suggested?
It's going to be enforced. This must be done for after each doctor finishes with a patient.
Yep.
Handling of bodily fluids, and if you're touching any patients that you might think are infectious as well. Okay. Now our next point is accreditation. It will also come under the accreditation, so the accreditors will be coming by and checking our hand hygiene policy to make sure that we're doing it correctly and it is up to date. Okay.
So when's the accreditation due?
The accreditation is our next point on the agenda. So now that we've finished with the hand hygiene policy, is everyone okay with this new hand hygiene policy?
Yeah.
When's it going to be implemented?
As soon as possible. It's going to be as of today. So I've got all the paperwork set up, and it's all going to be set up. So just every time that we go to wash our hands, we're going to have to follow this process.
And it'll go into the office guidelines or standard operating procedures or something
It's
like that?
going to be put into the procedure manual.
Fantastic.
Okay, so our next point here is accreditation. So on our third page, I've just printed up a little run through of the day. Now, if anyone hasn't been involved in accreditation before, there are people are coming out, usually a doctor and a practice manager comes out to our clinic. They check our procedure manual, the procedures we are doing. They speak with the doctors. They check some clinical notes to make sure that they are being entered in correctly, and a look through the clinic to make sure that we're doing all of our procedures correctly. So that's a general, and then if we've passed all of those points, then our clinic is deemed to be accredited with the Royal Australian General Practitioners.
How often is that done?
Every 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So we've got this coming up on Thursday the 29th of November. Now we've been working on, like the hand hygiene policy, we've been working on the procedure manuals, we've been working at the doctors entering their notes correctly into medical director, and so everything seems to be up to date. So just the run through for the day is the accreditors are arriving approximately 9 a.m. Now when they arrive, they're probably just got to have a quick talk to the doctor and one of the doctors and the practice manager. They're going to just have a chat to see there's guidelines that they need to meet, and so there's a few questions, and they'll just generally have a chat. Then they're going to have a walk through the clinic, and they're going to be looking at things like our hand hygiene policies up near the sinks. They're going to be checking that we're doing our dirty utensils and cleaning processes, checking our sterilisers, checking our drug stocks, the dates, make sure everything's within date, the cleanliness of the clinic, the wheelchair access within the clinic, in the car park and getting into the clinic. So all of that, they're going to be looking through everything. Then they're going to speak to the doctors, and there's going to be a few clinical notes that they're going to be selecting to be going through. And then they're going to look at our procedure manual and make sure that's all up to date, and then just a last look around and any more questions with any of us, and then an end. So that's probably finishing at about 3, it might be earlier, but they'll just be wandering around. The practice will run as usual around them, and they're very discreet, and they're not going to be interrupting clinical time with the patients. Okay, so does anyone have any questions about accreditation and the run through for the day?
No, that sounds right. Well, when are we expecting to get the accreditation results? How long does that take to come back?
It usually takes about 2 weeks to come back.
And is there follow-up questions? Will they come back and give us...
If we don't meet any of the criteria,
Okay.
they will send us a report
Yeah.
and things that we need to change, and then we'll need to change that. And once that is done, then the clinic will be accredited.
Cool.
And then they send us a lovely certificate we can put on the wall.
It's wonderful.
Okay, so if that's all the questions we have about that, we'll go on to our next item, which is just about Christmas closures for the year. Now we're thinking that we're going to be closing the Friday, or our last day of opening is the Friday before Christmas, which I think is the 22nd. And then we're going to be closed, reopening on the 27th, 28th, and then closed again, and then opening again on the 2nd. So that's where we're meeting. So there are a couple of days in there that don't incorporate a public holiday, that we will be closed, and that will need to be taken out of your annual leave. So we just need to make sure that we're all aware that there's a couple of days that will be taken out of annual leave that aren't covered by public holidays. Okay?
Has it been communicated, Amy, to the patients?
There's going to be a notification on, if they were to call up the clinic, there's a message left and alternate phone numbers that they can call if they need someone, and also signage around, and then usually just a general chit chat with the patients as they're coming in and out. But signage on the doors and build up before Christmas.
You'll have some patients that will need to be redirected, so you'll need to be able to identify the at-risk ones, I suppose, and direct them to
That's
other
correct.
services.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Now, for staff holidays, I just wanted to get all of your basically your availability over the Christmas period for, coming up to Christmas, the school holidays, New Year's, all of that. So if all of you can get back to me within the next week or so with your availability. So if someone is going to be away, you might be available to cover. So if you can let me know, and then we can start working out rosters and all of that. Okay? Yeah. Good. Does anyone have any other questions about the Christmas closures or?
No, that's
all straightforward.
Okay. So there are all the agenda items we have at the moment. Now we can just flick around the table and see if there are any items that any of you have. Simon?
Christmas party. We got a venue for that yet?
Yeah, the local pub.
Is it?
Yeah, yeah.
Is the doctor's putting a tab on?
On the
Because-
10th, definitely.
All
Always
cool.
do.
All right, and we're
Yeah.
allowed to bring in +1?
Yes, definitely.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. What
Yeah.
about the couple? My wife's cousin's in from
No,
Adelaide.
just partners. No children either.
All right.
Good job.
Okay,
Right.
thanks anyway.
All right.
And I suppose responsible service of alcohol too.
Oh,
because,
definitely.
Branding is pretty important for the business as well, isn't
Yes,
it? So you
It
want to
is definitely at a doctor's
have a
surgery.
conversation, I suppose, with the staff to make sure
Yeah.
about behaviours.
Yep. Some of
What are you
the
looking at me for? I
practice
don't know
nurses get a bit
being
loose.
singled out.
No.
Anything else, Steve?
No, it's fine, thank you.
Okay,
I know
Jeanette?
Christmas is coming up quite quick and there are essential questions, but with the Saturday bookings, I just wanted to see if we're taking new patients on Saturdays.
Yes, we are. We didn't before.
Okay.
But the head doctor would like us to get as
Okay.
many patients through the door as possible.
Oh, good.
So we are, as of the next Saturday, taking new patients.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
That's it
Um,
for me.
Abby, any questions?
Yeah, so I was just wondering if we could get new headsets for the reception staff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, have you looked into any headsets yet? Do you know of any that you might
Not
need?
yet, but I was planning to have a bit of a
Yeah,
look.
yeah, okay, definitely. I'll note that down and we'll make sure that we can have a look at some together and see what would suit. How many do you think we're going to need?
Probably about 9, 10.
9, 10? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, no
Get the
worries.
Bluetooth ones, those cords are so 2006.
Yeah, so do you think the cordless ones are better?
Way better.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
9 to 10 Bluetooth. No
Thank
worries,
you.
thank you. Does anybody else have any other questions before we finish up?
No,
No.
I'm good.
No?
No, it's fine, thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, that's it. Now the next meeting is probably going to be in next month, a similar time, and so I'll email you the minutes of this meeting,
Sure.
and I'll also have the date and time for the next meeting as well.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank
Right.
you.
Finish.
Thank you.